On this day, the government unseals a new filing, a superseding indictment. It says a street gang known as the Lows isn't just a set of individual shooters. It's an enterprise. 10 murders are now tied to that enterprise. 14 people are charged. Today we walk through what the case says, how investigators built it, and why it matters to families who just want quiet porches again. Twisted Case. Documentary stories with receipts. Subscribe for careful detail, not hype. Minneapolis North Side has lived with a long-running feud. Locals describe an invisible line around West Broadway. North of it, a group the government calls the Highs. South of it, the Lows. Most residents want nothing to do with either. They work, raise kids, and measure safety by sound, gate latches, bus brakes, the quiet click of a deadbolt at night. Through the 2010s and early 2020s, shootings rose, then fell, then rose again. Social media arguments spilled into real streets. Small disagreements became public shootouts. Families learned which corners to avoid and which porches to cross quickly. City officials and federal partners responded with a strategy: treat violence not as isolated cases, but as part of organized activity. That is where RICO comes in. In 2024, federal prosecutors charged 11 people they say are part of the Lows. In 2025, they expanded that case. The new filing adds 3 more defendants and 4 additional homicides, for a total of 10 murders alleged across 4 years. The accused are presumed innocent unless proven guilty in court. That point matters, and we will repeat it. Our goal is simple: explain the case in order, using public documents and reliable reporting, and keep the focus on the people who live with the consequences. The government's summary is straightforward. Prosecutors claim the Lows operated primarily on the North Side since the mid-2000s. They say members climbed in status by committing violence, selling fentanyl and other drugs, and carrying illegal guns. The goal, according to the filing, was to control territory, protect drug profits, and earn respect through public acts of retaliation. The superseding indictment lists 14 defendants. It charges racketeering conspiracy and adds violent crime counts connected to 10 killings between 2021 and 2024. Federal agencies say they work together: ATF for guns, FBI for violent crime intelligence, DEA for narcotics, IRS-Criminal Investigation for money flows, Homeland Security and postal inspectors for edges others miss, plus the Minnesota BCA, Minneapolis Police, and Hennepin County investigators. That is the official picture. But cases like this are built scene by scene. To understand the strategy, we have to step through the timeline. The first alleged killing the government ties to the Lows happens at a gas station in 2021. A young man is shot and killed at the pump. Detectives collect cartridge casings and video. At the time, it looks like a single homicide. Later, the government will place it inside a larger pattern. A barbershop should be safe. Prosecutors say 2 gunmen fired through the front window from the sidewalk, sending more than 24 rounds into a crowded room. 1 person died. Another person, near a child, was injured. The violence was public and meant to send a message. In May 2022, shots are fired near a food truck. 2 people die. Investigators log the scene carefully, marking where each casing lands. On its face, it is another tragic event. In the RICO view, it becomes a building block: public attack, multiple shooters, witnesses scattered. Just days later, the filing says, there is taunting and threat back and forth. At a red light, a car pulls up. Shots are fired. The driver and passenger in the target car are killed. The method is common in gang conflicts nationwide. In this case, prosecutors say it supports the argument that the group used planned public attacks to control the street. The next year, a group is gathered outdoors. Multiple shooters open fire, according to the indictment. The scene fits the pattern the government is drawing: crowded places, fast attacks, and shooters coordinating roles. In November 2023, a carjacked vehicle is used in a shooting that kills 1 person. This detail matters to investigators. It shows one crime feeding another: car theft used to stage a drive-by. In an enterprise case, that kind of stacking becomes a thread between counts. A shot is fired toward a passing vehicle. A bystander on the sidewalk is hit and does not survive. Officers collect casings from multiple guns. Laboratory work later uses those casings to compare scenes. This is one way investigators link separate events over time. In early 2024, a mass shooting near the Minneapolis Market at Chicago and Franklin leaves one man, 34-year-old Pierre Ramel Miller, dead and several others injured. Prosecutors connect 2 defendants and others to this scene. For neighborhood residents, this is the one everyone remembers: crowded sidewalk, loud shots, people running. The superseding indictment lists 10 killings in all. We have highlighted 8 of the most publicized scenes. The common elements: public locations, multiple shooters, and a feud backdrop that residents have lived with for years. Again, these are allegations. The government must prove each count beyond a reasonable doubt. Enterprise cases stand or fall on how well separate incidents can be connected. Here are the main tools investigators say they used, explained in plain terms. When a gun fires, it leaves tiny marks on the casing. Those marks are like a fingerprint. If the same gun is used at different scenes, lab analysts can often match the casings. In this case, scenes like the December 2023 shooting produced multiple casings. Analysts compared those to other scenes. Matches strengthen the idea that the same network moved the same guns between incidents. Phones create a trail: cell site pings, app location data, and travel patterns. Even when messages are deleted, metadata can show people moving together, arriving and leaving at the same times, or being near a scene before and after a shooting. Investigators say this helps prove coordination and agreement, key parts of a RICO conspiracy. Cameras on homes, stores, and traffic lights catch cars and clothing. Investigators use partial plates, vehicle damage, and unique features to connect cars to suspects. They combine that with phone data to place people in specific vehicles at specific times. IRS-Criminal Investigation tracks cash in and cash out. Investigators look for patterns that do not match legitimate income: frequent cash deposits after known drug runs, cash app transfers that spike after shooting, or vehicles and apartments paid for by people with no visible income. Money flow charts often appear in RICO trials to show structure and reward inside the group. Some people decide to talk, to reduce their own exposure or because they want out. Their accounts can be unreliable on their own. But combined with physical evidence and data, they can confirm details like who drove, who held which gun, and who gave the order. Defense attorneys will test these witnesses aggressively at trial. Put together, these tools are meant to turn a stack of incidents into a single story about an enterprise. The defense will push back, arguing that correlation is not conspiracy, and that life in the same neighborhood produces overlaps that are not criminal agreements. Why not charge each killing on its own in state court? Prosecutors say the enterprise approach does 2 things. First, it allows them to present a fuller picture to a jury, patterns across months or years, not just one night. Second, it reaches people who plan and profit but do not always pull the trigger. The Department of Justice has a specialized unit that helps local U.S. attorneys' offices with complex gang cases. In Minneapolis, federal officials have used RICO on both sides of the feud. In June and July 2025, juries convicted several defendants connected to the rival highs. Officials argued those convictions helped reduce shootings in key areas. The Lowe's case is the next step in that strategy. RICO is powerful. It can also feel broad. Families of defendants can experience it as a net that scoops up people with loose ties. This tension, public safety versus overreach, sits at the center of the coming trials. The irreversible moment in this story comes on August 26, 2025. The government files a superseding indictment. It adds 3 defendants. It adds 4 more homicides to the list. The total climbs to 10 killings tied to the alleged enterprise. 14 people now face federal charges that can carry very long sentences, including potential life terms if the government proves its case. That filing locks the case into a new shape. Families on both sides check the calendar and hold their breath. From here, the pace picks up. Several developments are likely before any jury hears opening statements. Defense attorneys will file motions to dismiss certain counts, to split defendants into separate trials, or to limit how much evidence from one scene can be used to explain another. These fights matter. If the judge allows the full pattern, the government's narrative gets stronger. Development 2. Evidence disclosures. The government will turn over lab reports, phone records, and witness statements. Defense teams will hire their own experts to review ballistics and cell site analysis. Expect challenges to the reliability of phone location methods and to any chain of custody issues with firearms. Development 3. Cooperation deals. Prosecutors may offer plea agreements to some defendants in exchange for testimony. This can shift the balance. A cooperator who placed himself at the scene can walk a jury through the roles of others. But juries are instructed to treat such testimony with caution. The defense will emphasize any benefit the witness receives. Development 4. Community impact. Separately from the courtroom, neighborhoods measure whether the streets feel different. Some residents have already reported quieter nights after earlier RICO convictions against the rival group. Others worry that quiet can be temporary if new recruits step in. Both reactions can be true at once. Development 5. Trial scheduling. Complex RICO trials rarely start quickly. With 14 defendants, some cases may be severed. Trials could run into 2026. Each will require careful jury selection due to media coverage and the local impact of the feud. As these steps unfold, one principle holds steady: every defendant is presumed innocent, and the government bears the full burden of proof. Behind the counts and acronyms are families. In the barbershop shooting, a child stood near the chair where a person was hit. Near the food truck, people ran from a place that normally smells like cooking oil and spices. At the Minneapolis Market, a 34-year-old named Pierre Ramel Miller did not make it home. On a cold December night, someone walking on a sidewalk was killed by a shot meant for a passing car. These scenes change how people live. Some shop before dark. Some sit away from windows. Neighbors swap routes to school. The goal of any public safety strategy, whether you support RICO or worry about it, is to make these adjustments unnecessary again. After years of scattered shootings, a gas station, a barbershop, a food truck, a red light double killing, group attacks in 2023 and a mass shooting in 2024, the government brings those scenes into one courtroom and says they are not separate tragedies but a single enterprise built on retaliation, drug sales, and illegal guns. One case. 10 deaths. 14 people on trial. If juries convict, the sentences will be severe. If they acquit, the message will be that the pattern the government described was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Either way, the city will keep asking the same question: how do we prevent the next shooting before it starts? Policy responses continue alongside the case: youth outreach, focused deterrence, and gun trafficking investigations. These do not make headlines like RICO does. But the day-to-day work often happens there. We will track the trials carefully. We will focus on verified facts from the courtroom record and reliable local reporting. We will center the people who live with this every day. Reminder: allegations only. Guilt or innocence is decided in court. RICO tools can help prosecutors tell the full story of a violent feud and target the drivers of harm. But those same tools can feel too broad when applied to people at the edge of a group. Which value weighs more here for you? Maximum public safety through enterprise charges, or maximum individualization by trying each act on its own with fewer pattern links? Where would you draw the line, and why? Justice through RICO? Or Kasibi case only? Share your view respectfully. Twisted Case. Subscribe for careful, source-driven episodes.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more gripping true crime breakdowns, mysteries, and criminal psychology stories, only on Twisted Case.